Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. We get together with our distribution partners and anyone that wants to join us most weekday mornings at this time. As a 501c3 nonprofit, we received a grant to help improve financial literacy and increase access to capital to start and grow small businesses. Part of the grant we received requires us to document, to demonstrate that we have regular ongoing financial literacy trainings, and this is one of those today. So thank you for joining us, whether you're live or listening to the recording thereafter. Screen should be shared. We're going to see the 4-week business funding program screen. We're going to be making some reference to that. We rolled out essentially a new version of this earlier this week on Tuesday. Monday was Memorial Day, if you remember. So we rolled it out Tuesday. Wednesday yesterday we had some follow-up discussion, and then today we're going to continue on it, but a little less directly, but we're going to be using this page as a reference piece for the challenge, which we'll get to in a minute. So let's start with the number one rule, because if we don't all agree on this, then nothing else matters. So let's read it together. The number one rule for getting money to start or grow a business is asterisk, 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 star, star, star. You must have a fundable business to get business funding. So often you and I will run into people, they're not quite as sophisticated as you, they don't have quite the financial literacy that you have, and they'll just say, I just need money. Well, the truth is, none of those people, none of them should be saying, I need money. What they should be thinking is, I need to become qualified for funding. Because getting the funding once we're qualified, very attainable. But to get funding if we're not qualified is a little bit closer to a dream. It's kind of like buying a scratch off ticket. Maybe it'll work, but most likely it won't. So we need to have a fundable business if we want business funding. Very basic concept. I think it makes sense. I don't think anyone could argue it, but I tell you, that's the number one barrier that we face. And when we have clients that go sour, that are not happy, it's usually because they don't understand this or they won't listen to it. They want to skip it. I've got one client, smart guy, he's an engineer, for the love of God. He wants $50 million. Now, that's a big amount. We've done capital raises. That's actually the largest we've ever done, 50 million. So it would tie to the largest. But the point is, he doesn't have a fundable business and he won't listen. So he's not happy with us, but we can't make magic happen, right? But what you and I can do is we can help people either build a fundable business or buy one. When we talk about buy one, we're talking about a fundable shelf corporation. Legal, ethical, real, and in fact, the grant reimburses them the cost back, so it ends up being free. So I know it says buy, but the truth is, if they'll just do what they promised to do, they get the shelf corp in the end for free. Or we can help them build one, and that's what we're talking about here with the 4-week business funding program. So anyone have any comments, questions, thoughts, concerns on this very important foundational point? Because nothing else really matters if we don't agree with this. If you say, oh, no, that's bullshit, you don't need to be qualified to get a loan, you can just get it, that's irrational, but go ahead and state your argument. But we all know that there's underwriting, whether it's to get a mortgage for a house, for your family, to get a car, to get a business loan, which is what we're talking about. We have to meet the underwriting criteria. Most businesses are not fundable, so they don't get approved. There's plenty of money out there. You and I can help them, anyone, get qualified. All right, so with that being said, I think we're all on the same page there. At least no one's raising any objections. So today's agenda, we just sent out an announcement this morning, and this is a big step for us. I mean, inherently, we've tried and we think we do what we promise to do. But if there are any clients, or any of you or any of your clients, or just in general, anyone that thinks that we didn't do what we promised to do. Now, we always have written contracts, and that's important because it states what we promise and what the client promises to do. But if anyone is not 100% satisfied, they can text us on that same support line, which you'll see here at the bottom of my note screen when we get there. They can request either their money back and or a contract cancellation. So all they need to do is text us on the number. I'll get to it. It's the same text number we talk about all the time, but it's at the bottom of this page here of the notes, and we'll send them the form. So we want 100% satisfied clients. So that's number one. Not a whole lot to say about that other than that we're going to put our money where our mouth is. Yes, we should do what we promised to do. We think we do it, but if someone feels that we've not, they can request their money back and or contract cancellation. So that notice went out to everyone this morning. Our entire client database received it. So we're not keeping it like a secret. Someone feels that we didn't do what we promised, they let us know. Okay, so that's number one, simple enough. Number two is our primary topic for today, and I think it's a big one. And frankly, it fits into our opening because our topic here is how can someone legally game the system? So if we agree with this statement up here, you need to meet the underwriting criteria to get approved. Now, different lenders have different requirements. We work with an SBA 7A lender, really looking for more deals. They have lesser requirements than many others, but it's true. Different types of funding can have some different underwriting criteria. But if what we said is true, that most people don't have a fundable business, therefore they have a problem. Maybe they're not aware of the problem, but they usually have the problem. You and I can help them. So how could we go about kind of gaming the system? And I mean that in a legal and ethical way, but how can we change their reality so they go from unqualified to qualified? That's our primary topic today. And we're going to wrap it up with a really interesting prospect challenge. So if you ever run into a prospect and they're just like, they're not feeling it, it's like it didn't make sense to them. Well, why would they want to build a fundable business or buy one? All they want is funding. I'll show you how we can essentially challenge them and overcome that objection. But we'll get to that last. Okay, so let's dig in to legally gaming the system. So we've already covered, hopefully we're all on the same page. No one's raised an objection or concern. If you want business funding, you need to have a fundable business. So we all agree with that, I believe. So the good news is you and I, we can ethically and legally create a fundable business. We can move them from where they are, not qualified, to being qualified, either through building a business or buying one from you, a shelf corp. Let's talk about that more in detail. So there are some key variables. Now we have some different trainings like the 27 mistakes that goes through in a lot of detail. Here's all at the weeds level, all the things that an entrepreneur should know. But at a basic level, there's some basic elements that's needed to qualify for most business funding. Let's go through that. So first, we need a business entity. To no surprise, right? Because we're not talking about a personal loan. If someone just wants a personal loan, they wouldn't need to have a fundable business. But if they want business funding, then they're going to need a fundable business. And that starts with having an entity. The entity could be an LLC, an S Corp, C Corp. In some cases, could even be a nonprofit. Sole proprietorships and partnerships don't work as well because they're not considered a formal, distinct entity. But the entity itself needs to be in good standing, and that means at the federal level with the IRS, we need to be current with filing our taxes. At the state level, we need to be in good standing with the Secretary of State of whatever state we're formed in, and then often there's annual filing. So we need to have an entity, but just having an entity is not enough. It needs to be in good standing. And one specific element, and we provide this, right? So if they don't have an entity, you and I can provide them an entity, and that comes free with either the build or the buy. So it's not like a price tag attached, but we provide them an entity because we know it's needed. Needs to be in good standing, so we're only going to provide an entity in good standing, of course. But we also need a unique commercial address. We're right at 7.8 million that we're spending to expand our property. So we had a rather modest commercial building on our lot. And some of you looked it up on Google Maps, said, oh my goodness, I can't believe that's the type of business you have. Well, we've had a plan for quite some time to put a new office building in front of the commercial building. And that, in fact, is nearly complete. I can look out my window now. There is a bunch of dirt because they've not done the landscaping yet, but the building is erected. The utilities are not connected yet. That's the next thing. So there's a bunch of steps when you build a new commercial building. But we provide a unique suite address, a commercial address with a unique suite number for every participant. That's important because you can't go to a Regis or a WeWork or one of these virtual offices where it's a shared address. So let's take the street number, like 123 Main Street. Well, at 123 Main Street, there could be an office tower that has 20 different floors, and on each floor might have multiple offices. So it's okay to have a unique suite number. That's what we need, but we need to, I'm sorry, it's okay to have a common street address, but the suite number needs to be distinct. So only one person should be using suite 400, only one should be using suite 500, and so forth. So we need that. But the great news is you and I can kind of game the system. If they don't have an entity, we provide it to them through either option. And with that entity, we're going to provide them a documented lease, because a lot of times lenders, they don't want to just hear the address. They want to see documentation that there's a real lease. So we provide that. So this foundational element's probably the most common sense, but it's very important and not everyone has it. So let's move forward from there. We've talked so many different times about the 3 C's. And so we have collateral, credit, and capacity. Let's talk about each one separately. So in terms of collateral, of course, are the assets that the borrower is pledging in order to give the lender confidence that if the borrower doesn't repay, that the lender has something to take back to mitigate the risk. So like when you buy a house and you get a mortgage on a house, what happens? They have a lien against the house. So if you don't pay your mortgage, they have legal right to take the house, auction it, sell it, and pay off what you owe. So we're not doing mortgages, but hopefully that analogy helps. So with business funding, typically lenders want collateral, normally dollar for dollar. So if you want $1 million loan, they're looking to see if you have $1 million of collateral. Well, where could that collateral come from? Well, normally they'll look at what's called global financials, which means they can look at the business owner or owners. What does he, she, or they bring? And that's determined on their personal financial statement, which PFS, which is part of our process now because our preferred lender wants to see that. And then secondly, we can look at the balance sheet of the business. So between the two, we should have enough collateral to match what the loan amount is. A lot of times these folks don't have enough collateral. So what we can do is literally and legally, everything we're talking about is legal and ethical. I'd be a fool to record a YouTube and post it up for the world to see if what we did was not legal and ethical. That would be not logical. But the point is we can transfer, and it's really not a 5 million cap, but normally we don't go above 5 million, but we can transfer assets. Those assets can go on the client's PFS. So let's take Prelo, who's on the training today. Let's say that we work with Prelo and develop his personal financial statement. And Prelo's is strong. I'm just picking out someone I just saw there on the list that's on today. But let's say, hypothetically, Prelo's PFS wasn't real strong. He didn't have a strong net worth, because that's what a PFS does. It measures the individual owner's net worth. What are they worth as a person? But we can transfer assets legally and ethically onto anyone's PFS to make them on paper a millionaire or even more. It's not a game. We're not going to fudge any numbers, but we can transfer assets from us to the client, do a true change of ownership. So it's not a wink, wink, a gray deal. And we can make any one of you, we have 544 of you on right now. We could take every one of you and make you a millionaire in the next 24 hours, legally and ethically on paper. Same on the balance sheet side. We can transfer assets to the business's balance sheet to make the business look strong. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about how to legally game the system to take people that don't qualify for funding, but they want funding. So, we've already talked about the entity itself. Now we're going through the 3 C's. Does anyone have questions on the collateral portion? All right, well, Ryan brings up a good point. So when we transfer collateral, again, it's real, it's documented, there's a bill of sale. Because I think what Ryan's hinting at is, oh, are we just loaning them something and then taking it back? No, that would not be legal. That would be fudging the numbers. We're not going to do anything to fudge. So we literally have to transfer ownership of assets from us to the client, either on the individual client's basis, their PFS, or on their balance sheet. So hopefully that makes sense. So we have that. Now let's move on to the next. See if you have any questions, let me know. The next is credit. Does credit matter? And I'm sometimes, I don't know if I'm amused or disappointed, maybe shocked is the right way to describe it. I have some people that come to us and it's like, well, credit doesn't matter, does it? Does credit matter? Well, what is credit? Credit is a reflection of, has your business had access to credit and has it paid as agreed? So we believe, and lenders lenders believe, thus we concur, yes, your business creditworthiness matters. So that's why we, as a matter of protocol, add trade lines to every business. So no matter if it's a build project or a buy, a shelf corp, or the 4-week, we strongly recommend adding trade lines. Now, sometimes we'll get clients that, no, I don't want trade lines. What they're saying is, no, I don't want to have a credit-worthy business, but I still want the money. Doesn't make sense. People sometimes don't make sense. So there's 3 C's. We're talking about how we can legally and ethically game the system to take someone that really didn't qualify for funding and move them to being fundable. So we've covered collateral now, and we've covered business credit. Okay. Next is the last C, in capacity. This is the one that confuses people the most. It's maybe the most abstract. So capacity can mean the same as cash flow. So what would a lender want? A lender would like to really be repaid. That's really their goal. They want to be repaid as agreed. And I've seen it from our side. We're not a lender. So sometimes people will say, well, you guys are predatory lenders. Well, we don't even lend any money. We're not a bank, right? We're technical advisors. People are crazy sometimes. But when it comes down to lenders, they want to see if the borrower can afford to pay back the loan. Isn't that kind of a novel idea, right? Because I've had people that have come to us and said, I want a big loan. Sometimes they'll say, I want a max loan, whatever the fuck that is. I want max funding. I have no idea what max funding means, but regardless, to them, it means something, I guess. Well, can you afford that? What is your monthly budget? A lot of these folks, they don't have a monthly budget. They're just pulling, I'm trying to clean this up to make it adult friendly, pulling numbers out of their orifice that's on their backside and just making shit up. It's crazy. Well, we need financial projections, and we provide those. We provide those in both the build and the buy that shows both ourselves internally, shows the client internally, but also shows the lender, yeah, we can afford it. This is what we're going to do with the money, which is called use of funds. And from that, we're going to make money, and we have to show them how we're going to make money. Again, you'll run into people that are less sophisticated than you, less financially literate, and in their mind, none of this matters. This is just bureaucracy. This is just bullshit, right? I don't need any of this. I just need money. But what did we say? No, no, no. If you want business funding, you have to have a fundable business. And that's what we do legally and ethically, either by building through the 4 week or by providing them a fundable shelf court. So, what's the point? The point is, you and I are amazingly powerful. I think you all know I have stage 4 cancer, and that's not the point today. But in my world, my oncologist is a pretty important man in my life, right? Because statistically, I had almost 0% chance of 5-year survival. But here I am doing the Zoom today. So you and I are actually really, really important to these people because right now they got about a 0% chance of getting funding if we don't help them. So we need to help them. We want to help them accomplish their goals and dreams. And they can do that either by working with us to build a fundable business or by buying one. Now, getting to the third and final topic, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. You'll run into some clients that just they don't think logically. Maybe they don't have enough knowledge to know the right questions to ask or the right way to process. But in some cases, people will just be kind of out there. And so even if you went through what I just went through with you, and then we ask them, well, great, may we help you accomplish your fundraising goal by either building a fundable business or by buying one through the shelf court? Sometimes they say, oh, no, no, I don't want either of those. So then the normal question would be, oh, I apologize. Let's say it's Celino. Celino, I apologize. I didn't know that you already had a fundable business. I apologize. I should have asked you that up front, Celino. So what you're saying is you already have a fundable business, right? You're ready to go because we've got the lender relationships. If you already have everything in place, let's skip all this. It's a waste of your time. Let's go to funding. And in fact, on 4weekfunding.com, that's built in. Down here on number 8, as our Hispanic friends like to say, the ocho, right here, optional loan application. And then go right to funding. Now, normally we add these things because normally they're not fundable. But if you run into someone that's already fundable, then great. Let's go right after it. Go right to number 8. That's going to tie to our challenge today. So what is this challenge? And I'll go ahead and put the rest of the screen up. This also gives you that tech support line we were talking about if someone wants to cancel a contract or their money back. But let's get to the challenge. So here's how the challenge would work. So let's go back to Prelo and we'll just play on him to role play. So Prelo says, I don't need this shit. I just need funding. And so I'd ask, well, Prelo, do you have a fundable business? And a lot of times people think they do, even though they don't. So you don't want to battle with them, right? Customer's always right. So we'd say, okay, well, great. Let's do this. Let's do this. Go over to 4weekfunding.com, scroll down to number 8, and fill out that loan application. I'll click on it. It'll pop up here. Top half is business information. It'll populate in a second. Top half is business information. If anything's not available, it's optional. And then the bottom half is key person. So what does it ask about for the business? Well, what's the name of the business? Assuming we have one. If not, obviously they don't have a fundable business. When did it start? No, we're not looking for a business that's over 2 or 3 years old. Time in business is not a requirement. Some people think so. It's not true. So, but we do want to know when it started. Do they have their EIN? And we're going to ask them their address and what type, because we've already covered, a unique commercial address is a deal breaker typically. So they need to have that. Do they have a business phone? Do they have a business website? How much are they depositing? So, we're looking at the different 3 C's like capacity here. What's the business credit score? Another one of the 3 C's. And what do you have for collateral, dollar amount? So that's simple application. So let's go back to the challenge. So you can take them over there and have them complete that app. Doesn't cost them anything up front. No hard inquiries. Let's get them in and let's see if they're right. Hopefully they're right. We don't want to prove them wrong. If they're already fundable, great. You'll get paid 5 points on the capital raise. Let's roll through it. So number 1, have them complete the form, because if they don't do this, they're not in the system. So we can't do the challenge. So we need to have them in the system. They fill out the app, which we covered. Then what do? Number 2, tell them, okay, great. What I want you to do, Celino, since you're so confident, you've got a fundable business, I just want you to go to your own bank And they could go anywhere they want, but their own bank knows them and trusts them probably more than any other lender. Selena, I want you to go to your bank today and go ahead and apply for your own business financing today and get that documented what your approval amount is. And then with that, come back to us and we'll guarantee that we can at least double, at minimum double, what you were offered based upon working with us. So we can at least double. Now, the truth is, a lot of the folks are going to get zero here. So, of course, double zero is not very valuable. But it goes to prove, hey, you said you've got a fundable business, Prelo. You're the one that said that. So if that's the case, let's go to funding. And if they say, oh, they don't want to use their lender, they want to use our lender, fine. We'll take them to one of our lenders, status quo, just exactly as they come in, and we'll see what they get approved for. And then we can guarantee, we can promise, we can at least double that by working with us. Often, much more than just double. All right, so with that, resources and contact information, the tech support line, that's for texting, not for calling. That's why it says text. Email support at 4weekfunding.com. Website, we're on at 4weekfunding.com. Schedule calendly.com/4weekfunding. Prior trainings are up on YouTube. So let's get to the questions, comments, concerns that you have. Again, our agenda was threefold. We started with our new money back guarantee contract cancellation request. Real simple. All they need to do is text us and say, hey, I want to cancel, or hey, I want my money back. And then we're going to turn around and send them a URL link to their text. It's going to come back to them. And we're going to just ask them for a little bit more information. Okay, who are you? What did we do wrong? Or if you're wanting money back, how much money do you want? Which contract is it? So forth. So just some basic information. So that's number one. So the clients have no risk. Number two, we've talked about how we can legally and ethically game the system, which what we mean by that is how can we take someone that really doesn't qualify for much or anything and move them to getting 100,000 or more, guaranteed in writing. And then lastly, we talked about the new prospect challenge, where essentially get them to fill out number 8. Let's immediately take them to funding and see what they get. Often it's going to be zero because usually they don't have a fundable business. They're a bit misinformed of how fundable they think they are, which verifies the value of what we do. And then at that point, we could either, when I say work with them, we could either get them in the 4-week program, we could get them a shelf corp, or just work with them a la carte, whatever they prefer. But we can help them and measurably show the improvement. So with that being said, covered a lot. Who has questions, comments, concerns? Carlos asked about the type of entity. We really like C corporations for fundability, but ultimately it's really whatever our client wants. But Carlos, the answer to your question is we prefer, and I believe most lenders prefer C corps. Jordan's talking about a business address. And so, yes, we provide them a private address. Our address is staying the same, 509 Pacific Street, but it's changing. Well, the address isn't changing, but we have a new building. Again, I'm looking out here. We've got now a fenced property. So if you go look at an old Google map, it doesn't reflect reality. We have private security fencing around the property now because of the sensitive nature of what we do. The new office building, I don't know, I'm going to say 90% done. They're doing the finishing touches. I don't know exactly when we'll move in, but it has a training center in it, so we'll invite you in. It has a commercial kitchen, so we'll be able to treat you to a nice lunch, but we're still working on that. So yes, we can provide the address, and we do provide the address, Carlos, in both the 4-week funding as well as in the shelf court. So sorry if there's some miscommunication on that, Jordan. Jordan also asked about the trade line. So yeah, we need to have a credit-worthy business. And we talked about that before. We'll work with the client on which trade lines that they want to add. based upon their mitigating circumstances. So it's not really a cookie cutter approach, Jordan. We need to work with the client and get what they want. Kenny says, great information today. Thanks. Well, thank you, Kenny. And let's see. Jordan asks, can I provide I have a way? I don't know. Your wording's hard for me to follow, Jordan. I apologize, but maybe text us, Jordan, one-on-one, and I'll better understand what you're asking. Troy's asking about the credit, and I don't know if you were here during the full training, but essentially, I'll summarize, but it's a bit redundant. You know, there's 3 C's to getting business funding, one of which is credit. So what we want to do is we want to, Troy, add trade lines to the business under the EIN. So for instance, it has a strong paydex score through Dun and Bradstreet. And so that's part of what we do. If you go back to the prior training that we had with our checklist, you'll see it's on there. It's part of what we do. All right. So I think we covered most. If you have other questions, maybe text us. But we covered a lot of information. Again, we talked about you're not going to face pushback from, I think, clients feeling that they're at risk anymore because now we have the money back offering, the contract cancellation. We're able to maybe better understand and better explain how we can take people and businesses that are not qualified and help them legally and ethically become qualified. And if you have someone on the fence, we've covered a really interesting challenge. And if they feel that they already have a fundable business, don't fight with them, don't argue with them, don't debate with them. You can skip the build, you can skip the buy, because in their mind, they don't need it. They just want funding. Well, great. Bring them over to 4weekfunding.com, have them click on number 8, fill this out. We'll get it into our lender network, no hard inquiries, and we'll see what they qualify for. And with that, they'll get that money, right? So it's theirs. It'll fund to them. But then above and beyond that, we guarantee we can at least double it. Chances are we can do a lot better than that. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.